let's move to Miami. This incredible story.
It's an incredible story.
Down there. So over the weekend, we can put this Guardian element up on the screen. This first one, Mordecai Braffman, 27-year-old Jewish man, is driving down the highway in Miami and sees what he thinks are two Palestinians. Gets out, stops them.
For even just stopping there, that's weird.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Keep driving.
Yes.
He gets out, stops them, and opens fire with a semi-automatic handgun. If there wasn't some video evidence of this, plus the direct testimony of Braffman himself, I'd be like, there's no way any of this is true.
Agree.
So Braffman, he fails to kill these two people who are
17 shots. He gets off 17 shots at Miami Beach.
They turned out to be Israeli tourists, Mizrahi Jews in Miami, and we're going to talk about that more. So he was mistaken about their religious identity. They run. And we have a video of them trying to get into this condo to get some help. One's shot in the shoulder, the other was only grazed in the arm. So that's how they were able to live. Police come to the scene, and they capture Braffman. And they arrest him, they bring him in, they interrogate him, and he confesses. He said, I saw two Palestinian men and I killed them both.
I killed two Palestinians.
Yeah. That's what he tells them. Turns out, he learns later, his two mistakes he made. He didn't actually kill them, and they were not Palestinian.
This is what happens when you mow people down from a car in Miami Beach.
It's interesting to say they're not Palestinian. Like, they're from Palestine. We'll talk about that in a moment. After they are shot at, one of them posts on social media, we can put this up on the screen, they tried to murder us in the heart of Miami, but the creator of the world is with us, so he didn't go. He said, my father and I went through a murder attempt against anti-Semitic background, so he blames anti-Semitism for it. So I want to say thank you to everyone for their support, and it is not taken for granted with Israel. Live Israel, death to the Arabs. So this is the guy who has a bullet in his shoulder because the Miami guy thought he was Palestinian, but he kind of is Arab. So this is the weird thing. That's what's so complicated about this whole question.
Conflict, yes.
And they are considered to be, Arab by a lot of Israelis, even though they are Jewish Israelis. I mean, put up this VO here. So here these guys are giving an interview, describing what happened, and you can see why.
Yep.
If you're a Miami guy who doesn't live in Israel, you're like, oh, these are Palestinian guys. Well, although I'm not sure why he didn't think, this is Miami.
Exactly.
It could have been Colombian, Mexican.
100%.
Like Puerto Rican, Cuban.
The possibilities are endless in Miami. It's insane.
Like how you pick them out as Palestinian.
That you are just driving through Miami Beach and you see two dudes that you think might be Palestinian and
It's not
firing.
unusual to see Arab men in Miami either.
Insane. It's insane. None of it really makes sense.
So this same guy, by the way, Mordecai, local news interviewed him months ago because there was some vandalism of a Jewish flag at a coffee shop. And he did one of those man on the street interviews where he says, I wish we could all just get along. Why does there have to be so much strife and conflict? And so they replayed that interview with him. And then months later, he pulls over and just opens fire on two guys because he thinks
extremely weird
that they're Arab. So I don't know if you guys follow Alon Mizrahi. He's a Israeli, as his last name on Twitter says, Mizrahi Jew from Israel. He has actually since left Israel recently. He now lives in the United States. He's so driven so insane by what was going on in Israel. So he wrote on Twitter, a large following here. He says, what most people don't get about the incident in Miami, where a Jewish man, and Alon is Jewish, where a Jewish man shot 2 other Israelis whom he thought were Palestinians, is the inter-Jewish racism. The shooter is an Ashkenazi, a white European Jew. His victims are Arab Jews. To him, brown Jews look like Arabs, but that's only because they are. If there ever was a more perfect demonstration of the fake and made-up idea of a Jewish ethnicity or nation, I never heard about it. His victims, by the way, would rather he shot them again than admit they're Arabs. And I think Alon is almost fair in saying that, because after they got shot,
yeah, they said death to Arabs.
Said death to the Arabs.
Yeah.
And his point here is that these guys are Arabs, that they have lived in Arabia forever, for thousands of years. Zionist brainwashing is the strongest propaganda material invented by mankind, he says. And so Arab Jews would rather die than face their Arabness, and white Jews would rather kill Arab Jews than acknowledge the humanity of Arabs. This is from an Arab Jew. So you're you can imagine what his experience was like as an Israeli citizen that drove him to say this and then to also leave and move to the United States.
I can't wrap my head around the story being true. It's completely wild. The lack of media coverage over it is also absolutely insane. I do think it's true that had this been a case of
if the shooter was Arab,
it's crazy.
It would be wall-to-wall coverage.
We'd be hearing a lot more about it. But I don't know if media just is confused about what to do with the story. It seems enormously significant to me that somebody fires 17 shots at people they drove by on Miami Beach. I mean, it's just an insane story, but there's so little coverage of it. I mean, I don't know if it's just because people are confused with how to handle it. Doesn't fit into any narrative very conveniently, but it's insane.
Yeah. And people often make the argument that the Israeli occupation is obviously, the primary victims of the Israeli occupation are those who are occupied. But Israelis themselves are victimized in the sense that the necessity of carrying out, or the action of carrying out a brutal occupation of an other produces in your society the kind of thing that Alon is describing there. A stratification, a racism, a hatred that then drives a wedge between even Jewish Israeli citizens based on color and ethnic origin. And like he said, it's like the whole idea of Israel is to create this national identity where at least all Jews inside Israel are equal. And what he's saying is that this is another example of how that's just not the case.
Jews inside of Israel, in theory, equal, not based on skin color, but based on Jewishness. And that's incredibly complicated for a society to accomplish when there are distinctions. Literal tribal distinctions.
And there's some and there's some color involved. It's a little whiter, a little less white.
Right. Crazy story. Not getting nearly enough attention.
Where's like New York Times, which is somebody like live blogged the campus protests, and you had like 15 different editors, working on the story in where was it, in the Netherlands, where the hooligans were fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like that was like an all hands on deck moment for the New York Times. But Miami, they don't have anybody in Miami.
17 shots fired.
I think New York Times might have some readers in Miami.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Well, increasingly probably less, but.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Steve Bannon.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media.